Loading snacks.
What it do, snackers, snackettes, and snack X's? It's your boy Gage. I am here with jokes. It's
Yo,
time
yo.
for a new episode of Spoiler Boys,
Spoiler boys.
and we are here to spoil Agatha all along. First two episodes
Mm-hmm.
they dropped together on Disney Plus, so we're gonna do this as one episode to cover those two.
Mm-hmm.
Going forward, we'll continue to do individual episodes. Um, Jokes, before we get too deep into it, what are your
Mm-hmm.
initial thoughts?
Right now I'm interested. Um, First episode, it was a little slow. They had to get the build. Like it kind of gave you that WandaVision vibe. Like the whole series and how things evolved into one episode just crunched down. If you get what I'm saying.
Kind of.
So it was a little slow, but once we got to the end and then jumped into episode two, I think things were off to the races at that point for it. So right now, I am interested. I am very interested in what they're doing right now.
Yeah, I am. I would agree. Right now, I'm in a place where I feel like um, the first episode's really weird,
Hmm.
but it does kind of continue that vibe that came from WandaVision of like, oh, this is a. Remember how like every episode in WandaVision was like it would start with a new theme song,
Uh huh.
a different. This is a different episode from a different era, and it had that same kind of vibe in it. So it kind of throws you off because if you don't really remember, if you didn't go back and kind of watch WandaVision, then like this joint feels like kind of out of place. Like there's a bunch of like overacting in it, and it just it's just you can tell it's on purpose, but it also is
Mm.
kind of throws you off. It's a little bit off putting. Um, so on that note, I feel like had this come closer to WandaVision,
Hmm.
it would have felt a little more
Yeah,
cohesive. Right now, it
definitely.
doesn't quite, have that link. Or at least if it had come right behind Doctor Strange 2,
Yeah, agreed.
then I feel like it would be a little bit more cohesive. Um, Second episode, I think you're right. I think that it starts to cook a little bit harder. It's you know
Hmm.
what I mean. It gets going a little bit better. So um, I definitely think it got better as you got into the second episode, and I do think it was a really good idea for them to put those two episodes together to
One
release
hundred
them
percent agree. One hundred
at the
percent.
same. Um, I don't think the first episode was bad per se,
Mm.
but I do feel like without that second episode right behind it, it would have been like, yeah, this is not good. Like you know what I mean? We're in for some trouble. Why don't we talk about the first episode,
Sounds good.
and then kind of branch into the second episode? So the first episode starts you in like a crime drama
Type of
kind
stuff.
of TV show. It's got that kind of a pitch. Agnes is I guess this town's cop,
Detective,
what
whatever.
you the main detective who doesn't always play by the rules. She been kind of on suspension or whatever, and gets called in to come check out this body. Um, and if then like that body, they never show the face, but it's clearly
Right.
Wanda. Eventually they
Right.
get to that point, but it's clearly Wanda. Um, and Agatha looks like she's kind of out of place. You
One
do,
hundred.
do still have,
100.
you know, she like has moments of like seeing something or feeling something like things are kind of off.
Hmm.
Um, but maybe isn't sure. And the characters as they are that are built around her, um, kind of just play into it, play it up. So What are your thoughts on the opening and kind of the whole thing on the road with Wanda's body dropped in the middle of somewhere and no tracks or anything?
Had obviously, if we have not watched WandaVision before it, the whole opening scene would have just been for me. It would have been like super weird. What the hell is going on? But calling her Agnes, there was just those subtle things that's just like, oh, it looks like she's in Wanda's world or whatever it is that she wants her to be in. Not knowing who she actually is, it's like, because clearly, other than that, it's like one. The question always is like, why is she a detective? Like that's kind of that first question that you just throw out there. Is like, why are
Yeah.
you a detective? Why are you policing and doing? It would have been super weird. So I had to keep a little bit of an open mind because it was like, okay, after WandaVision and how we kind of went through each of those, I was like, okay, it almost looked like for a second I was like, are we just gonna mimic and do the exact same thing for like these maybe like first 3-4 episodes before we just really turn and shift gears? I'm happy they kind of just condensed that all down into episode one, and so we didn't have to get like strung along the whole way for it. But yeah, the opening scene, it was cool just to establish that she's clearly not Agatha right now. She's not in that right mindset. So I think it was a good way to start things out for it.
Yeah, the I don't know, the like kind of the cop vibe, the kind of overacted,
Oh God.
overreactive. I'm the bad good cop that just does what needs to get done to get the thing done, kind of thing. Like again, it's kind of really off putting. It feels sort of out of place. And again, like I didn't go back and watch WandaVision
Me
before
neither.
watching this. Um, so I was kind of thrown off, and I was like, I don't know about this. But they get to a point where they flip the body over. Clearly, she sees her, but she doesn't know who it is. There's this library book that's supposed to be the only thing that she had on her was this library card.
Hmm.
Um, and the next thing she does is go to the library to try to figure it out. It's got all these dates on it. It hasn't been checked out. It was stolen. It happened 3 years
Hmm.
ago. It's like, oh, there was a fire, blah, blah, blah. Um, and it's then you start to see like a couple other characters
Hmm.
that were from WandaVision that
WandaVision, yeah.
played parts in the town, you know, kind of pop in. You can tell that she's kind of starting to put things together. Um, gets back to the precinct, and the chief or whatever is, you know, talking trash to her in her office. Again, just very like making like pointing jokes at that
Hmm.
style of TV show, that kind of cop, you know, call it, any one of those cop shows, it, you know, and then they bring in a new character who you can kind of tell is going to be a little more pivotal in this. So Aubrey Plaza's character comes in, who in this case, she's an FBI agent,
Hmm.
who's been brought in, and now there's like a little bit of a, some sparks, beef
Hmm.
between the two of
You can tell
them.
there's a little history. Like there's a little history, and clearly it's not like, I don't know. She like stole a case or something, saw something, took credit. I don't know what the beef was.
But that's a kind of a weird typical thing in these like cop shows. When you watch those, it's like they do all this work and blah blah blah. Anytime like the quote unquote big wigs are coming in, the FBI comes in or the CIA comes in or whatever, they kind of like take over their cases.
Uh-huh.
And so there's always this kind of like, just that history between them of being mad about that kind of stuff. Um, but you can also kind of tell that she's there to just kind of push buttons, but you don't know
Hmm.
exactly what the dynamic is
Right.
between them. Um, and you know, she stays late. Agnes stays late to try to work on the case, and she was like, "Go home." turns the lights out on her. You got to go home. She goes home, sitting at home, still kind of trying to work on it, get things together. You see her walk into this like bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
It has like pictures of a child and some other things there, and you don't really know what it is or what that means. You can kind of tell that it is something that's going to be strung along for you later on down
Mm-hmm.
the road. And then she's distracted because here comes Aubrey Plaza's
Mm-hmm.
character again, knocks on the door, shows up with food, kind of a peace offering. Let's hang out. Um, and that turns out to be like, I'm just hanging, let's talk. But then she starts to ask her, like, do you remember why you don't like me? Why you hate me?
Right.
I was like, actually, no, right? Um, and then somebody, like, she hears a noise upstairs.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so carry me through that next kind of portion, joke, where she kind of goes upstairs to see what's happening upstairs.
Like she goes up there, and it's like I don't know how to explain it. It's like she clearly she's going after the dude, but it's this like cheesy ass way of like going after him, and I'm just like, what is going on? Like when dude of course goes out the window, she follows, like she slips, and I'm looking, and it looks like she's literally just like a foot extra off the ground. Like literally,
Yeah,
you can hang on and drop, and you'd be okay. But we're
yeah,
overdoing this, like like we're like 10 feet off the ground. So I'm just like, why are we trying to force this? Like I'm cool with the chase. You know what? You break into my house, I'm coming after you right quick. And on top of it, I'm like, why are you breaking into someone who is the detective of detectives, the cops of cops? Like, why are we doing this right now? Like none of it doesn't make any sense right now. Like obviously the little necklace thing that she had found, I know she had went, got it appraised or whatever. I believe that was bull in between.
oh yeah, the brooch. I'm
Yeah,
sorry. Yep,
yeah.
I forgot about that.
The brooch was in between. So obviously I'm like, okay, they're coming for that brooch. Clearly that brooch actually meant something. Um, but it was just a whole it was just cheesy the way that it was done for it. But obviously for this part of it, it was made to be cheesy on purpose. So
Yeah,
if you're the average person, like let's just say for whatever reason you haven't watched WandaVision and you're not kind of familiar with, you're probably at the point where you almost want to flip this off probably because you're very
bro, 100%. Because the acting, the like bad acting, goes way up. It goes
I'm
way up. Stop! It's the police.
just like,
I
what?
am going to arrest you. Stop! Like it gets so corny, and it makes no sense to me. And, the dude's running and she's chasing. Stop, police! The car hits him, and then she, runs. Oh my god! Oh my god! She goes to grab the guy. Are you okay? The lady gets out. Oh my god, he came out. Get back in your
In
car!
your
Like it's this
car.
whole weird, like, why are you yelling kind of thing? And then, are you okay? Good, because I'm gonna arrest you now, and I want you plenty cognizant for that, or something. Like it's so
It's
corny
so bad.
that like it. I don't know. It's off putting because it inside the house as they're talking, it just kind of seems like it's getting away from that, and it's kind of getting serious.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And we're getting away from some of that. And I think what they're attempting to do is to um make it so that the things that are them approaching her kind of getting broken from this spell that she's
Hmm.
under, they begin to get a little more serious and whatever. And then as they pull us out of that, or as the magic for the spell
Hmm.
that she's under starts to kind of push back against the idea of her figuring it out and maybe breaking out a spell, it just like takes it to the next level. And
Right.
so the super overacting, and you are in a show. This is part of what your life is. You're not getting out of this. It almost feels like they're trying to get you to understand that like the spell is pushing back against the idea of
Uh-huh.
her figuring it out, right? Um, now we're in the jail. They're doing an interrogation, and the interrogation, bro, is
Oh
so
my god.
over the top. It's so bad, bro. And so and I guess it's like it's supposed to be bad,
Right.
but it still feels like it's bad, even for being, even for like it's supposed to be bad. So I'm like, again, I'll be honest, like I was kind of thrown off. I was like, I don't like this. The moments with her and like Aubrey Plaza in the room on the other side of quote unquote
Mhm.
the glass before she goes around to do the interrogation, it seems like things are kind of like calm and they're more regular. They feel like normal. And then the minute she goes in that room, it just goes to 1,000. Like it just is like overacted and crazy, like wild movements and just like over. It's like
She
it's
was
almost
doing
like
the
she's
extra when she was, opening the file and the way it was being moved around. And like, I know, when cops want to do that interrogation, like the good cop, bad cop routine type of stuff.
yeah,
But this was just like, if I was on the opposite side, I'm kind of just sitting there like, are you threatening me? What are you doing? Are you trying to weird me out right now? Like,
yeah,
what is your
yeah,
goal here right now?
yeah. And in this moment, we're getting introduced to another new character again, which is not bad. We're sort of
Hmm.
getting introduced to a new character. And as she's beginning to question him, things are starting to kind of fall apart. In terms of like the binding of the spell that
Yeah.
she's under. And she's beginning to question that reality
Hmm.
herself because you know, he said something to her about the road, and she was like, I was on a road this morning.
Hmm.
What do you know about the road? Like it just goes like again to 1,000,
Where were
and
you between? It was like 2 a.m. and see, like the time
one
was
and
just.
three or whatever. Yeah. Um, and he also has a super smart mouth in terms of like, knowing like, oh, you mean like a cop who's, been under investigation and
Mhm.
just kind of pushing all those buttons. Um, but then, he's like, what? What do you know about this body? What do you know about this person? And she shows the pictures to him, and then he looks at it. He's like, what are you talking about? It's just flowers. There's nothing here.
Right.
She looks down and she's like, wait a minute. You know what I mean? And she's turning and she had kicked this chair over. You know what I'm saying? Or whatever. And like Aubrey Plaza like bangs on the glass, like, you can't do that kind of thing. It's so weird, bruh. And then she keeps looking at the glass. When she looks at the glass, he's like, why are you looking at that painting? And you're looking at the painting. And that painting is actually a painting that is hanging in her house.
Uh-huh.
When she looks at that painting, it's the same painting that's hanging in her house. And now she's like, okay, I'm all right. I'm locking you up. I'm not losing my mind. Now she's back at the morgue. Like, I know I saw a body. There's a body, goes in the morgue, and there's no body there. And then she looks back up, and there's a
And
body
the
there,
body
right?
shows up.
And the toe tag isn't a toe tag. It's the
The book, like the
the marker
checkout,
from
the
the
checker, yeah.
yeah from the library. And then it fills out the name W Maximoff on it.
Mm.
And then the person who checked it out before that, it shows that it was it shows Agatha Harkness, right?
Mm.
And so now you really know that, maybe you don't know, but like, this is this is the checkout for the Darkhold,
Dark hole.
right?
Yeah.
And so the person who has it now would be Wanda Maximoff. That's the date where in which she got it, and the date before that is the date when Agatha got it, right? And so it does make me wonder whether or not that's going to continue to be a thing, and we are going to
Mm.
see that card continue to get filled out with
with
other
other
people who
people that have
possess the
had.
dark hold prior to them because they have so many dates with no
Yep.
names. And it's making me wonder whether or not we're gonna actually go back through time and see.
Hey, listen, let some names from Agents of Shield show up on that tag.
Stop it.
I'm like,
Stop
I'm.
it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it, bro. It's not happening. It's not happening. Kevin Feige is like not acknowledging Agents of Shield. It hurts my heart, but I would love to see it. Um, so that honestly for me is the first time it really starts to feel like, all
Mhm.
right, now we're getting somewhere, and it really does feel like, even though we saw like quote unquote Wanda's body, you don't see her face,
You never see her
whatever.
face.
They can't
They
get
do
close
it
in.
on purpose so much to make sure that
Sure.
you don't see her actual face, which
Right.
I'm good because let's be real, like obviously Wanda made it into Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, so I'm imagining we don't quite know where this fits in between, like before or after where that's at. So
I mean, I would assume it's after because of what we believe happened to Wanda. So what I don't know is based on what's happening here, whether or not I feel like what this is trying to do is definitively tell us that Wanda is in fact dead.
mhm,
That like what happened at the end of Doctor Strange 2, they kind of leave it in the air. Like the whole
mhm.
thing crumbles on her, but you never see a body. And if you don't see a body, they can do whatever they want, right? But I'm wondering if really what they're attempting to do is tell us, no, what happened at the end of Doctor Strange 2 is in fact that like she no longer is alive.
Mhm.
And I believe, based on what is happening in these first two episodes, that it is only because Wanda is actually no longer alive that they are able to break the spell, right? Because this kid who kind of comes from nowhere, right? Who is like, I've done a little bit of studying, but I don't, whatever. And he's like, that's why I helped free you from,
I was like,
the
you
spell.
broke the spell. I'm thinking Wanda,
Correct.
Wanda level type thing, and having the dark hole at the point. I'm like, and you broke this spell. I'm
So that's
like,
why I'm saying, like, for Agatha to say to him, like, well, if you broke the spell of the Scarlet Witch, why would you need my help? Like, you must be, and he's like, I mean, I've done a little studying, but so one, dare I say it, I think dude is Mephisto. But
keep we keep trying to get Mephisto in here somehow. But there's things we'll get to it that.
yeah, um, but also the just again, there's a body. The body is Wanda.
Mhm.
It does reveal her name as the person who would have had it last, and then shows Agatha as the person who had it before that. So the fact alone that the name is there, it's telling you that's who checked the book out. The book is checked out, right? And we don't know where it is. We don't know if there's even the ability to technically, I guess, get back to the book. Like the book, as
Right.
far as I know, is destroyed. So if the book is no longer there and Wanda is actually dead, then yeah, I could see that spell unraveling. You know what I mean? Or at least beginning to unravel and just needing a little bit of coercion in order to
Mhm.
do it. So that kind of works for me. Um, and I think that's what they're trying to do. So they go
Mhm.
through this thing that I actually think is pretty cool. I mean, you see it kind of in the trailers or whatever, but I think it's pretty cool to kind of watch her transition through these other characters that she's
Versions of.
played in WandaVision, get back to the original black and white, kind of realize what's going on. Having, um, again, I cannot think of the name of the character that she plays. So like, I'm apologizing. We had a long day. We've been at Comic Con all day. Um, so there is still kind of that, that dynamic where I'm not sure why anybody is helping break her out of that spell.
Mhm.
Like, why not? Like, if people don't like her, if they don't, you know what I
Right.
mean? Like, why not just leave her like that? Like, why not just leave her in that state? You know what I mean? Um, and that kind of has me thrown off a little bit. I'm hoping that doesn't end up being some sort of a weird dead end that they don't really ever
Don't go back and
explain.
address.
That it needs to be addressed. Um, but I don't know that they're gonna do it. And so I do feel like, look, if you put Aubrey Plaza in the show, she has to play a more major role, I
Mhm.
believe, right? And um, I this kind of like anti I'm against Agatha thing, I don't think it's gonna last very long. Um, maybe a couple more episodes, and then I think that's gonna be a wrap, and they're gonna end up having to work together. We can get
Mhm.
into that later, but um, it still is just kind of weird to me that she wants to break her out of this.
Mhm.
Um, but she does. She figures it out. She gets out, and she's back to understanding that she is Agatha.
Yeah, I got
You know what I
the
mean?
yes.
And she wakes up. She's in her house, butt naked in the street. I mean, she's not in the street. She comes out the house naked. Like, I don't care.
But she didn't care
Trying to
at
talk. Oh
all.
man, my man back trimming his hedges again.
Just like, oh,
Miss Agnes, what's going on? What we doing? And again, her questions: How long have I been in here? How long have I lived here? Right? And him telling her 3 years.
three
Okay,
years.
I think for the audience, for us, that's okay. She's been under the spell for 3 years. It's been 3 years. Which I think works out in terms of when Doctor Strange came out
I think so.
and when WandaVision happened. I think that works out. Um, but all right, she's beginning to see other people, recognize what's going on, goes back in the house. Now let me figure it out, and realizes I don't have any power.
Yep.
Tries to use her power, can't use her power, hears the noise, realizes she got the boy locked up in the closet
You real.
with, with the duct tape on his mouth, tied up. And then before she can do anything with that, her door blows open, and here comes Aubrey Plaza
Mhm.
trying to kill her
Yeah,
or something. They have a fight. I'm like, all right, but she can't kill her. According to Agatha, she's like, you can't kill me, and she's like, you're right, I can't, but I can make it very painful. Like,
uh-huh.
I can make you wish you were dead. And Agatha's like, hold on, why don't we just? You don't want to do it like this. You want me at full power. Why don't you let me get my power
I was
back
back.
so we can really have a fight? So now I really am interested in, like, all right, what is this? You know what I mean? Like, why are we? One, why is it she can't kill her? And
Mhm.
and of course calls her witch killer.
Mhm.
You know, um, what do you think this dynamic between their characters is, Stokes?
Clearly, from I don't know if maybe also there's still a piece of Agatha's memory that either aside from what Wanda has done, that they just don't have that full on connection just yet. But clearly, because I know they talk about like ages and stuff at points in time, so you can kind of get an
Oh
idea of
yeah, hundreds of years old,
how
and
long they've been around. So clearly, I'm thinking this is something that's happened, 100, 200 years ago, that it's just a grudge that we've held on to for so long. It could have been something as simple as Agatha took the powers of someone maybe that she cared about or something like that and ended up killing them. I don't know. But clearly, whatever it is, it happened, I'm saying like hundreds of years ago. And we're just
it
now.
did. The when she after the fight is over and she talks to the boy, he tells her, like, I've been following you for ever since the first. I've been obsessed with you ever since the first time
Mhm.
I read about you. I loved your time, in Salem. So, like, during the Salem witch trials was
Witch
in like the
trials.
1600s.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So again, we are talking hundreds of years ago, right? Um, and so whatever it is that's between them could have been something that happened after that. It
Hmm.
could be something that she holds against them for what she did to the old coven that she had, and maybe she's a survivor or a child of one of them or something like that, or was around and survived it, or something. I don't know. Um, Again, I'm very interested to see that though, and see what
Hmm.
that dynamic is, and what that means. So, we get into the second episode. Now it's more regular, but it's still kind of corny. And I'm not totally sure about the direction of the comedy all the time. It's not bad. It's just like it's there.
It's there. It seems like for us right now, it's like it's strategic for a reason.
It's better.
It's better than the first episode and what was going
Yes.
on for it. So
Yes.
I guess this is just us learning some of the characters and just certain quirky. Like I feel like or almost like we're trying to get a lot of this like out of the way before we decide to just shift gears and maybe become a little more serious tone as we get further into it. But it's just hard to say right now.
I mean, look, I feel like that comedy is going to be there throughout. Like, I don't think that the comedy is going to go away. I think that with some of what they've done in terms of the way the show is rated and
Hmm.
what we've seen, like we see Catherine Hahn's bare behind walking in the middle of the street. Um, there's definitely a little bit of language relatively early on in the beginning of it. So like, but I think that the comedy and the comedy portion of it is kind of there to offset some of that so that it's not so blatant. Um, the second episode, we're kind of building our team,
Hmm.
right? We gotta, you know, the young man is saying, I want you to take me to the road. I want to
Hmm.
walk the road. I want to do the road, show me the road. And she's like, boy, if you don't get, and she's like, if you can undo the spell of a Scarlet Witch, then you don't need
You don't
me,
need it. You don't need it.
or whatever. How do you even know about it? And he's like, the song, the books, the tales. Like, I've been obsessed. You know, he's 16. Like, yeah, um, and she's like, whatever, Slim, you can have a house. I'm out. I gotta go because once Aubrey Plaza's character agrees not to
Hmm.
mutilate her, okay, that's cool. But I'm telling everybody, I'm gonna tell them where they can
Hmm.
find you. Who you telling exactly?
Right.
The Salem Seven. Oh, all right. Sound like a problem to me. I like this. I like where that's going.
Mm.
Salem Seven's coming. We can talk about what it looked like when what felt like the Salem Seven was showing up in a minute, but we now have to assemble this like quirky kind of hodgepodge of
Hmm.
witches, kind of begrudgingly. We're on a road trip
Hmm.
to build the team to go on a road trip,
Yep.
if you will. um and so, all right, boy, drive. We're kind of getting, and then there are these things that are happening where like she asks him what his name is.
Uh-huh.
That's the only thing that seemed like was the reason why she took him, because she asked him
Once
what his
you
name
realize,
is.
uh-huh.
He tells her, and when he says his name, his mouth looks like it's sewn up. It
Mm.
almost looks like
It
an
looks like an
M.
M. When I first saw I was like
M for what?
either Mephisto. Like
Uh,
I'm putting my signature on here right now because
yeah.
I'm not thinking Maximoff. Unless it's like some type of residual thing that maybe she's put in place. But I want to put my eggs in the Mephisto basket again.
Nah, only on Slim? That doesn't make sense to me. So, like, the fact that he's telling her his name, but she can't even see it and can't hear it. And then she's like, come again? He says it again, same thing happened. She's
Same
like,
thing.
all right, dog, you can go with me.
Let's-
Because there's something there. You know what I mean?
mhm.
Um, and she has that moment where she looks at what used to be Wanda's house.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it says evil
It's
witch on it.
there's a
There's
dog.
actually like a symbol of the Scarlet Witch mask with like a line or X drawn through it. Um, so again, there's kind of like your reminder of what it is and how she is a neighbor. She lived like right next to her.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my man's like, all right, my car's over here. They go to try to find somebody, and turns out that the idea behind in order to open the road or to get to the road or the path to the road, you need a coven.
Mm-hmm.
And for her, it's like, well, you don't need a quote unquote coven. Like, you will have enough. There will always be enough witches within like a 3 mile radius, or people who are magic adjacent enough
Mm-hmm.
to form a coven of some sort within a 3 mile radius. We're just gonna go look for those
Look up.
things. And they go and they stop at this palm reader psychic. All right, let's go in here and see if we can figure this out.
Right.
Who currently, out of all the people they get, is the only person that seems to have any power
Power. Yep.
right now, right? Because Agatha has no power, and I guess this boy got some power.
Or at least the incantation that works. I don't
Something,
know.
something. So Agatha's got no power. She goes to see this psychic, puts on this whole show. My husband died and trying to
Oh
find them
gosh, she
gold
was
bars. And so
selling it.
gets the whole thing. Oh, yeah, you find the gold bars, they're gonna be in the closet. But then really tells her, you've been bound. Somebody held you for 3 years captive, blah, blah,
Mm,
blah. And
no,
I
you're
don't
getting
want no
good.
parts of what you're doing. And, what you mean? Why would I join a coven at all with Agatha
I got it.
Harkness? Right? Clearly I know who you are. I don't like, you must be 450 years old. And you can't be happy doing this. You know what I mean? Like, it's and it's again that comedy that, like, yeah, she has actual power, but it seems to be that for her to really use her power,
Mm-hmm.
she kind of has to lose control a little bit. It's almost like
Yep.
she has Tourette's for her power or something like
To
that.
kick in, it's
Um,
almost like a random kick in. Like you start, like she did the whole fake thing, and then afterwards, like I don't know what they were talking about at that exact second. Then it just like kicked in. Like, oh, okay.
um, yeah, because then she ends up kind of doing that again and then giving her a list. Here's 4 names. You can go get them. I don't want any parts of it. Turns out her own name is on the list. You're on the list, so
You
you
wrote it.
can't ignore yourself. You made
Bring
the list.
bring yourself. 5 o'clock.
That's one.
Be at the address.
She looks at the paper. He's like, "Where are we going?" Looks at the paper. Agatha ain't got no friends, so they go to see this other woman who's selling edible
Edible.
probiotic candles. Got a lawsuit coming her way, whatever.
Hey, bro.
Also, her powers are bound, so she doesn't have any power.
Hmm.
And Agatha's like, at least I'm still a witch. So, which I don't understand. I don't know how Agatha's still a witch, but doesn't have any power. And this person is bound and doesn't have any power, and she's not a witch anymore. But sure, whatever. You know what? Don't even explain it. I don't care. And then this last person, she doesn't even like. You know what? We're good. Let's go find this blood witch. What's a blood witch? Oh, well, her mother was a witch, kind of thing. And this woman is working like security at like a Hot
A Hot
Topic or
Topic.
something.
I was like, I don't think I ever seen like a security like in like a Hot Topic. Spencer's like, I don't know where and wherever that mall is, must not be a great place to shop.
And I was getting ready to say, bro, it must be popping in Westview. It must be popping in that little town. They must be, after all that witch stuff and everything that happened, them kids must just be wilding out. I'm going to take whatever I want. They go in there to get her. She kind of makes him steal.
Hmm.
She goes to trip him and then pretends whatever. Gets her fired. You know what I mean? And it's kind of like, oh, you ain't got no job. You
Come
might
on
want to
along
come
with
help us
us.
do this thing. Like she's like, whatever. Not following her. My man's like, I didn't even get to give her the address. It's cool. We don't need her.
Mm-hmm.
Go back to the address. I do like the dynamic between Agatha and him. Like just that. Oh man, could you write that down for me? It's a pen in the glove box, and she reaches in the glove box and throws that joint out the window. Just like little stuff like that. Like I just calling him teen. They have that moment when they're driving, and she's like, "Where are you from?" And he starts
And
to
it
tell her the
starts
whole story and can't hear
any of
anything
it.
he's saying. She's snapping, can hear herself snapping, turns up
Turn the
the radio,
radio.
can hear that playing. You can hear all the sound outside, all that. Can't hear anything he's saying.
He on lockdown.
Again,
Like,
I'm really interested in seeing what that is and where this is going. Um, the witches all show up. Like she doesn't think they're gonna show up. They all show up. They're like, there was a fourth name on the list. You're missing somebody. One of them walks in and is like, where is your green witch? We need an earth. We need
mm-hmm.
an earth witch. And she's like, and then she tells her, he asked the woman who wrote the list, what was the last name? What was the name of the last person? And she's like, it wasn't a name. It was a heart, a
Mm-hmm.
black heart.
Dark
She's
heart.
like, that's because you wrote it in black pen. Like, all right. Well, when she was talking before with again, I feel terrible now about not being able to remember anybody's name.
It was her name was Sharon, if I remember right. The last one she went to. I'm pretty sure it was
Well, no, no,
now.
no. Yeah, yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Now it's Sharon Davis, if I remember right. But when she
Right.
was
It was Hart.
uh-huh.
So she went to her for that, but that wasn't really what it was. Like what I'm saying is that Aubrey Plaza's character, she had said that when they were fighting, she had said to her, "You have no heart," and she was like, "I do. It's just black."
Mm-hmm.
And so when they said, "Oh, it was a black heart," I'm like, "Oh, well, she's clearly the witch that they have to have, right?" And Agatha seems to be
Avoiding.
seems to know that as well, and is rejecting that notion. So she goes and gets this other woman, and you know, she's just a next door neighbor, bruh. She's not.
She's not about that life.
But she's like, you want to come to this party or not? I'm having a party. You want to come to the party?
Let
Don't
me
call
grab
me.
my
Oh, don't call me
purse.
Miss Hart. That was what Wanda called me. Oh, we don't say her name, right? Um, she shows up. They get down there. All right, we got to sing this song. Here's what I'm gonna tell you. That song is fire.
Fire. Hey, listen. When they started telling each other, what parts, like, who's gonna sing the high part? Well, I'm like, I'm an alto, so and when they started breaking down, I'm like, oh, this joint gonna rock in a second.
This
And
about to be a problem, bruh. That joint was like that, bruh. They killed that joint, bruh. But overlaying them singing the song, of course, with this woman Sharon, who has no, am I supposed to know this song? Like I have no idea, whatever. Which is also why I thought it wasn't gonna work.
work. It's same
I'm like,
here.
she don't know, you know. Um, she left him upstairs. Like, you got to go upstairs. You can't be part of this. And as he's upstairs, and sunset's coming, that them Salem Sevens start to show up, and now we
Hey,
getting
we
into some
we
spooky.
we cooking a little bit right now. Like they out here looking like Death Eaters from Harry Potter.
Yes,
Like straight. I'm like, oh, you have my full on attention right now. The coordination, you just see the one, and it's just like, oh, it's just this one random person standing in the middle of the street, and homie next door, he just got his groceries, and like he walking down, he turn around, look, and say, hey, you see this? Like,
yeah. See
and the
this?
next thing you
Hey,
know,
dog, I'm going in the house.
the
I'm
one,
going in
and
the house. I
and then
remember
the
this.
rest of them just come out from behind him, and it's like, oh, nope,
Yep.
I'm
Yep.
out, I'm out.
Like throughout the episode, she's seeing animals. She sees a rat,
Mm.
and she steps in the street. She sees the wolf. Like right before
Starts getting
everybody
creeped
comes, like
out.
she knows it's coming.
Like in between, like she was getting creeped out by each one of them. It was a
Mm-hmm.
crow, a
The
rat,
crow. Yep.
the wolf,
I
I
feel
think
like that rabbit somehow is involved.
it's
Like I
it's
don't
something.
know.
Yeah, it
It was
was
a rabbit.
there, but
Yeah.
I don't think she ever saw the rabbit
No, she
because
picked the rabbit up.
she picked it up. I
She
know he picked it up.
she she picked it up before that. Like
Okay.
she picked it. So after in the first episode, after she went back, after she was in the street naked, she came back in, put the robe on. She went down in the basement. Darkhold and all that is missing
Missing,
from
right.
down in the base. She walked down in the basement. The rabbit was down there. She
Okay.
picked the rabbit up then and talked to it or whatever before she came upstairs and found him in the closet and the fight happened. So he's upstairs too, and as all that's happened, he sees the rabbit. He picks the rabbit up. But bruh, the windows are rattling. She don't got no door. I don't even know why she told him close the windows, but whatever. And they do the joint. Now they're fighting. And slightly important thing that I forgot to mention. Agatha is known for stealing people's powers. And the first witch she goes to visit is like, you're gonna try to steal my power. Like, I'm not letting you do that. And then she tells her,
Yeah,
okay,
straight tell her.
little known fact, in order for me to steal your power, you have to blast me with it. Like, you have to use it on me. If you use it on me, then I can steal it. But we go down the witch's road, all that power that you get, as long as you don't hit me with it, it's gonna be all yours. You know what I mean? To keep. So now that they've sung the song and they believe that it didn't work, and she knows they're coming, she's like, I need this power. So she starts trying to
She's trying to attack
goad
my
them
these.
into attacking her so she can get some power. And maybe that's what it is. Maybe her power is because I remember I was like, I don't understand how she's still a witch with no power, but the other lady is bound, so now she's not a witch. But I guess she does still have power, but her power is to take other people's power.
Mm.
And so she doesn't have power unless she takes the power from someone else. And so she's still able to do that. And so I guess that's what would delineate the difference between the two. So now she got to try to get somebody to attack her, and that's not happening. And then, of course, of all people, Sharon's like, what's that? And there's a whole door that appeared beneath their
But
feet. Tell her to open it. She opens it. They start going down. The road is here. It's just in time. My man comes running down the steps like, is that it? Because we got to go.
we
Let's
gotta
go.
go.
I'm trying
We
to
gotta,
go. Jokes, and then what happens on them stairs, though?
hey, listen. As each of them go down, and we know like whatever the seven are coming out, and then one of them just hits that mean, creepy ass crawl down the steps like super quick, and just that subtle
The
stop,
backwards spider jump.
and
It's the
then just
backwards spider walk from The Exorcist, bro. Like it
it just
is.
turns and stares, and it was just like, oh no, let's dip, let's go.
We gotta
Nope,
go.
not dealing
For
with
those
this.
of you, for those of you who are listening or watching this, the reason why it's only me and Jokes here is because
Some people quite are built.
sin can't handle scary, and
Hey, we
we
was prepared.
decided we would watch this and then let him know, like, yeah, it's not that bad, dog. You can watch this. As soon
Hey,
as I
listen.
saw that, I was like, nope.
Hey, look, we were almost home free. I was like, oh, I'm about to hit the message and be like, good to go to watch it. And then that happened. I was like, well, Sin is not joining us for this edition of Spoiler Boys.
Happened with like 2 minutes left in the episode, dog. Like we were almost home free.
Almost there.
Almost had him watching this joint. They get down there, they close the door seals back up. It's not even a door
Not
anymore.
even a door
Now it's
anymore.
sealed over, and they are on the road, looking at each other on the darkest yellow brick road I've ever seen. And now we just have to see where it goes from here. You know what I mean? They all take their shoes off.
I still don't know the significance. Maybe somewhere in the song. I don't know, but
I think they have to
you gotta
connect
be
with Earth
one
or
with
whatever. But
you gotta
anyway,
be
they
one
gotta
with the
go.
path.
Yeah. So they starting to go down the green brick road, and we'll have to see what happens on next week's episode. But I'll be honest, and if it wasn't for the very end of that episode, I think I would have been out.
Mm-hmm.
I think the kind of creepiness that actually does show up there the kind of tense, the moments of tension, um, that freaking song, and kind of where I am in the dynamic between like the relationships, the dynamic between all of the different witches that are now going to be on this journey does have me like again wondering, all right, where are we going with this? How's that going to work out? What does it mean that we have this woman, this random woman here
Mhm.
who does have some of the things, right? Her name was Heart. It was a heart. She's supposed to be a green witch, and she's got a green thumb.
Gotta
You know
agree.
what I mean? Like she was gardening or whatever, so there are parts of it that she fits. I don't know how a person with the black heart, who is Aubrey Plaza's character, would fit into being an Earth or a Green Witch. She doesn't seem like that's what her field would be. So even though it seems like she is supposed to be that last person,
Doesn't fit the
she
bill
doesn't
quite
come
yet.
off as if that's what her ability would be or her power is. So I'm interested in seeing that. Um, and more than that, I'm just very interested in seeing how slash if this does tie into the greater MCU. Like I don't know how or where you go
Right.
with this from this. And I
Obviously,
also don't
magic,
know.
like Doctor Strange. I know we're still like there still should be another Doctor Strange movie with the way it ended. So I don't know if maybe we're just trying to keep the magic type of thing. Like obviously the Darkhold is technically we think it's still out there from at least what we're gathering. I don't know, but for all we know, it doesn't tie into anything in the greater good.
I I feel like they have to tie it in somehow.
Hmm.
I just don't know how they're gonna do it. Um, and I think we're gonna have to have some flashbacks, explore some of Agatha's past. She clearly has knowledge of and has a relationship with some of these other witches, from the past. So it'll be interesting to see that get explored. Um, so yeah, like I'm interested. Like I'm not over the moon about it right now. I'd say I'm probably at a 7 overall for the first 2 episodes, somewhere between a 6 and a 7. I think that last little bit kind of helped elevate
Helped,
it
yes.
a lot. Um, but I'd say right now I'm at a 7, and I'm cautiously optimistic about the
Mhm.
remainder of this the season.
I could agree with that.
Yes, sir.
I'm at a 7. I normally don't do half numbers. I could almost say like 7.5. I really feel like episode 2 is what really pulled things together and started to make it like, okay, you know what? Now I'm a little more invested in this. If it wouldn't have
Mm-hmm.
been for WandaVision and knowing kind of what they were working with doing with episode 1, then probably I would be more like at that 6. But just
Mm-hmm.
for what they did with episode 2, I'm sitting at that 7, probably 7.5. Not it's not an 8, but I was like, okay, we're reeling things in, and it looks like now we're starting to formulate and put some pieces together. So I'm just like you said, I'm optimistic. I want to see where they're going with this. I feel like this could easily be something really great, but at the same time,
Yeah.
one misstep and we could be completely in the wrong place with this.
I think that's why, like, I want to do a little bit of it. Normally when we come in and we do spoiler boys, a lot of times what we do is we give what our scores are before we have the discussion, and then we kind of revisit our scores to see if anything's changed after the discussion. But I think that like just going back and like I was re-listening to some of our old episodes, was kind of thinking about where things are. And I just feel like from episode to episode, things can vary so wildly, whether an episode feels like it's a 10 versus a 5 versus,
Mhm.
whatever, that I think more of where I want to be in terms of this, and really probably for anytime we're doing shows now, as we record our thoughts episode to episode, what I'd really like to do is for us to give where we are score wise for the entire season so
Mhm.
far. Right. And so because they did episodes 1 and sometimes we would do this. Episodes 1 and 2, they do that a lot where they'll put out the
Mhm.
first 2 episodes together. And so I think it's fair to kind of judge them together as one thing because they put them out together as one thing. I feel like one isn't really supposed, like that first episode feels like it's not really supposed to live on its own without that second episode, or they wouldn't have done it that way.
Mhm.
So as a whole, based on those 2 episodes, I think for the season right now, I'm at a 7. At the end of the 3rd episode, the grade that you're going to hear from me is going to be about how that episode makes me feel about all of
The
it
entire season.
as a whole together, so that when we get to the end, I can kind of keep track of where I feel the show is, where the season
Mhm.
is itself, and kind of use that to align myself for how I feel by the end of it. Does that last episode take it over the hump or not? And where we left. Um, it doesn't mean we won't certainly have really, really good episodes, and some of them have that lull or whatever. But from episode to episode, I think where I feel like we should be is, let's just kind of, rather than necessarily try to pin an exact score on each individual episode, let's
Mhm.
just use each episode to kind of keep track of where we are as a whole for the season,
I like that.
so far. So for me right now, I think I'm sitting at about a 7, um, based on these 2 episodes, and we'll see where the 3rd episode takes me. Are you with that? You good with that?
I'm 100% with that.
All right, cool. All right, so look, this has been your episode of Spoiler Boys for the first 2 episodes of Agatha All Along. Um, we'll be back next week with our thoughts on the 3rd episode and how that makes us feel about the season so far as a whole. We appreciate you tuning in. Thank you for
Mhm.
doing so. Make sure you check us out across all your podcast services. Make sure you're following us on YouTube, Instagram, and so forth, all the socials. We appreciate it. Make sure you check us out on Patreon. We love and appreciate your support there. We're wrapping this one up. We're out. Toodles and loos.
Loading snacks.